like it was important based on the situation that unfolded yesterday to come out here and have an honest conversation about what we value as an organization, and what we believe is important to the Boston Red Sox, and that being great teammates for each other, and so we think we had a productive conversation. John seems to have had a productive conversation, and that's where things stand right now.
What we value as an organization, to me, those are the key words from Craig Breslow on Friday. The Red Sox arrived in Kansas City with the news that owner John Henry, along with Craig Breslow and Sam Kennedy, flew out to Kansas City to speak with Rafael Devers directly after the comments he made about Breslow and about switching to first base just the day before as the Red Sox left town. Really unbelievable. An unbelievable story. And in the wake of which the Red Sox went out 1-2 of 3 from the Kansas City Royals and frankly could have swept the series over the weekend. But this is where we're going to start tonight on the Baseball Hour. I'm going to ask our producer, Jimmy Stewart, the middle of that comment by Breslow, what we value in the organization, continuing on to the part, Jimmy, where he talks about being a good teammate. That specific section of the comment from Craig Breslow, if we could play it again in a moment. To me, this story is getting more and more traction nationally. And again, Devers, to his credit, I suppose, despite all this, went out over the weekend and hit like crazy. 7 for 12, I think he was in the series, 6 RBI, a home run, went 4 for 4 in the blowout win on Saturday, then hit a monster 400-foot home run yesterday. I think it was, I said 440 feet on a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, the longest home run that a Red Sox player has hit this season. And let me just recap for you where I am on this thing. And also read to you some things that Kenny Rosenthal wrote in The Athletic today to me that raise a whole bunch of questions and issues as it pertains to the Devers story. So we'll open up the phone lines right away, 617-779-0985, because I think, incredibly, a lot of you somehow defend Rafael Devers on this, and I actually have a theory on it. One of which is that now, especially, Devers is 28 years old, I think. Might be 29 now, I'd have to check, but whatever. He's a millennial or Gen Z, whatever it is. He's one of those. And I do feel now like young people are all entitled and believe that somehow you should not be held accountable for anything and that you should be entitled to do whatever you want, whenever you want, which I don't necessarily agree with, particularly when you play team sports. Part of being on a team is sacrifice. That's the deal. So do I blame Devers in this? Hell yeah, I do. Of course. If Devers just accepts it and moves over to first base, no problem. Now, by the way, when I say move over to first base, I'm not saying a guy can play the position after just moving there overnight. This isn't the same as moving to DH, where all you have to do is step in the batter's box and hit, which you've done every game of your big league career thousands of times. No, this is also about positioning and some skills that you may need to develop. So Devers would have needed some time to acclimate, but if he had said yes, would it have been the best case scenario for the Red Sox? Yes, of course. And here's why. And I said this Friday, I'll repeat it. Because this story did further develop during the show on Friday when we learned through a tweet from Chris Cotillo, but then multiple tweets thereafter. That is when we learned that Henry, Sam Kennedy, and Breslow flew to Kansas City. But it's not like you can just throw Devers over there and he can play it tomorrow. He would need a little ramp-up time. Which brings me to the Red Sox culpability in this. So to me, they all deserve blame. How you split that up is up to you. I put the majority on Devers. But the Red Sox made mistakes here too. Not the least of which is leaking it to the media that they were thinking about moving Devers to first base at the end of last season. Rosenthal himself wrote a story in September about that. And in fact, it was so out there that the Red Sox asked Breslow and Cora about it. So it was a topic of discussion with them last fall. And they never approached Devers. about the reality of it. They just denied the reports when Kenny Rosenthal must have gotten some of it from the Red Sox organization. Again, some of the things that were in that story: sign Bregman, trade Casas for pitching, put Devers at first. Basically, the Red Sox tried to do all three. They tried to move Casas. They did sign Bregman, and they clearly tried to move Devers to first base. So there was a lot of truth in that story, which means Kenny Rosenthal didn't just pull it out of his backside. Speaking of Rosenthal, there are a few things, or a bunch of things he wrote in this story, some of which I agree with and some of which I don't. And I'll say this up front. I consider Ken Rosenthal a friend. I don't talk to him regularly. Maybe colleague is a better word. But I respect his work tremendously, and you should too. But he writes, in reality, by agreeing to such a change in the middle of a season, Devers would risk injury, offensive regression, and embarrassment. Okay, I think that sentence is a little strong. Devers would risk injury? He used to play third base. So he can't play first? There's always a risk of injury, so I throw that one out. Offensive regression? Also possible, but I would tell you, Rafael Devers was born to hit. Can we all agree on that now? The beginning of the year looked ugly, unprecedented in some ways, historically bad, 15 strikeouts and 19 at-bats, I think it was to start the year. But given what Devers has done since, was it really that long a stretch? He has the 6th highest OPS in baseball since April 2nd. 5th is Alex Bregman. So the two of them have provided exactly the kind of punch in the middle of the lineup that the Red Sox wanted. He does write, however, Rosenthal does, Devers isn't above reproach in this latest chapter of As the Red Sox Turn, which includes a potential disconnect between Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow and manager Alex Cora. Again, the latest chapter of As the Red Sox Turn includes a potential disconnect between Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow and manager Alex Cora. This part of the story I am also interested in. So again, what does it mean for Breslow and Cora? So in the meeting that took place with John Henry, Cora was in the meeting, Breslow was not. And Cora was in there largely because he has a relationship with Devers, and he also served as a translator to John Henry. But no Breslow and no Sam Kennedy. And Cora refused to speak with Devers about the prospect of moving to first base. That conversation was had with Breslow, whom Devers then threw under the bus last week. So again, what we have here is Devers versus Breslow. We have Breslow versus Cora. And we have John Henry delivering a message to Rafael Devers about what we value in the organization. Jimmy, can we play the middle of that comment again?
An honest conversation about what we value as an organization, and what we believe is important to the Boston Red Sox, and that being great teammates for each other, and so we think we had a productive conversation. John seems to have had a productive conversation, and that's where things stand right now.
Okay, being great teammates to each other. Now, I said this last week. I'll say this quickly, and then we'll get to some of your calls right away. Initially, when the Red Sox went out there, I thought Henry was trying to, what's the right word, rub Rafael Devers back, figuratively speaking. And when I say that, I mean that if you look at the Red Sox historically, the way they have dealt with some issues in the clubhouse when players have been upset is to try to appease them. In 2011, if you remember, Adrian Gonzalez led a group of Red Sox players who bitched about the fact that the Red Sox had to play all these games on Sunday night and that the schedule was hard. You know what the Red Sox did? They invited the players onto John Henry's yacht and gave them all headphones. So just like, guys, we know you're pissed off. We're on your side. That was number one. When David Ortiz signed one of his final contracts with the team, I think the Red Sox got him for $16 million a year, which within a year was a bargain. They cleaned his clock at the negotiating table to the point where they felt so guilty, they bought him a pickup truck and gave him a plaque that said the greatest clutch hitter in the history of the game or something to that effect. So you get it? At times where their players were history or upset in their history, this ownership has generally gone out of its way to massage those players a little bit and calm them down. I thought the same was happening with Devers this past week. You know what the truth is? I now think, based on what Breslow said, that Henry was sticking up for his chief baseball officer and said, you're not throwing our guy under the bus, and not in these words, but I'm giving you the more dramatic paraphrasing. We're not throwing our chief executive under the bus, and certainly you're not, and we do what's in the best interest of winning here. That's what we're going to do. Now, the real message was probably something like, look, we know you're upset. We get it. You mean a lot to us. Our contract should prove that to you, given the commitment we made to you. But we want you to think about this, and we want you to understand that Craig's heart is in the right place. Translation, don't chirp about the GM again, and eventually you're going over there whether you like it or not. But I'm sure they said it in a much nicer way. And actually, I think that that's the right move from Henry for a couple of reasons. One, he can't let the player throw the GM under the bus and get away with it, because then it's open season on the GM. Number two, I also think it sends the message that we want you to go play first base. And I also think it sends a message to you, the fan, that he cares about the incident and he cares about the team. And I think it's been a while since a lot of you felt that way. So the fact that I can't remember another time, right, the owner has ever shown up on the road to talk to a player about something he said, let alone show up on the road, period. So let's go right to the phones quickly. Colin in the car on John Henry being involved. Go ahead, Colin.
Hey, Tony. Thanks for taking the call. So I don't think that this is John Henry, standing behind Breslow like he's his guy. I think, once again, Breslow's showing that he doesn't do his job. He doesn't have a spine. I mean, Henry had to step in and basically throw his weight around to sign Bregman with, the big, cigar, Instagram afterwards. And now he's got to step in to, smooth Raffy's feathers because, believe me or not, this impacts Bregman. If Raffy pollutes the team and the team underperforms, do you think Bregman's going to stick around? Do you think Breslow trading Raffy will keep Bregman around? They need to make this work, and I don't think Breslow's the guy to have the spine to figure it out. So John's got to keep stepping in for his little nerd who, runs his calculator and can't do anything with the personnel.
I got you, Colin. And look, again, it's a fair point, but I'll also say this. Remember that when the Red Sox hired Breslow, they didn't necessarily want him to be the GM yet. Jimmy, what'd you say earlier about how many candidates the Red Sox went through? And I know it's a big number. I just don't remember.
I believe it's 12, Tony. 12 candidates.
So they went through a dozen people before they hired Breslow. And again, I'm not, trying to sit here and tell you that my sources are always the best ones or what have you. But what I had heard at the time, and I think there's reporting on this too. I'm just telling you that it's consistent with what I had heard. That at that time, the Red Sox wanted Breslow to come in, be the right-hand person to the general manager, whoever that was. And I say general manager instead of chief baseball officer. But they wanted to bring Breslow in, make him a sidekick, and let him run the pitching development in the organization, which is what he was doing with the Cubs. They didn't feel he was ready to be the chief baseball officer, but that he would be. Except that they couldn't find anyone to take the job. So they gave it to him. And when they did, I think they learned that he wasn't quite ready for it. The first year, they wanted to sign some guys on the market, but they couldn't. He couldn't close the deal. So maybe he needed help from Theo Epstein. Maybe he needed help from Henry. He wasn't ready for the job. So what are you going to do now? After you hire him, throw him to the Lions? So Henry backed him up, which is the right thing to do if you invested in the guy in the first place. But I don't think the battle with Devers is the only battle he has. I think he now has one with Cora. And I think Kenny Rosenthal alluded to it. So we'll tell you what Rosenthal said. We'll read you what he wrote. And we'll get to that part of the story as well when we come back. So again, is the relationship between Cora and Breslow. So Cora, by all accounts, told Devers or asked Devers to move away from third base and become the DH. That is how it was handled in spring training. If you remember at one point, Jen McCaffrey of The Athletic asked Cora, I think it was Jen McCaffrey, asked Cora about the prospect of bringing in David Ortiz to help facilitate the switch for Devers and get through to Devers. Cora kind of bristled and said, I don't need David Ortiz. That's my job. I can do that. So I don't need David Ortiz to come in here and do that. Yet when it came time to move to first base, it certainly feels like Cora pawned it off on Breslow. Okay, and this is what Rosenthal wrote. Now again, we just played for you the podcast or the report. And Jimmy, was that on the web or was that part of a podcast?
It was a podcast.
Okay. But Rosenthal wrote in his story, where is Cora, the Sox great facilitator? ? Where is Cora? Cora first became Red Sox manager in October 2017, shortly after Devers' major league debut. The two formed a lasting bond, cemented in part by the Sox World Series title in 2018. And Cora, it seemed, was the most persuasive voice in the behind-the-scenes conversations that helped Devers accept becoming a DH. But Cora, who declined comment, seemed to resist the growing Devers to first base drumbeat, saying earlier this week, quote, cutoffs and relays, there's a lot of stuff. It's a tough position to play, a tough position to learn, end quote. Breslow, not Cora, was the one who asked Devers to make the change, raising the possibility of disagreement between the manager and chief baseball officer, a possibility neither has addressed. Okay, so the fact that neither one has addressed it should tell you plenty. If either one had addressed it and said, no, listen, we were on the same page, this is bullcrap, okay, then they would have said it. They haven't. So people are speculating that they're in disagreement over it, and I agree. And Jimmy Stewart is right. It's also possible that Cora, Jimmy, did you say that on the air?
No, I said it in your ear before.
Okay, then I'm sorry. Say it again, Jimmy.
I tend to lean that Cora doesn't want Devers playing the field. He would rather have Bregman, a buddy of his, at third base and a Gold Glove winner to help the defense. And that's a big part of it. I have another thought on Cora and Breslow, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, but then, Jimmy, this is a good point. That Cora was willing to sell Devers on the change at third because he's the one that didn't want Devers at third anymore. Bregman's a better third baseman. Cora thought it would make the team better. Bregman gives him a leader in the clubhouse. Bregman gives him a right-handed bat. And he's a known commodity for Cora, who wanted to sign Bregman from the beginning. So, Raffy, you're going to move, but and I'll take care of Raffy. Switching to first base is admittedly different. It's not just going into the lineup and hitting. He's got to learn a new position. So it certainly feels like Cora was off base, and I said this last week, but Breslow may have gone to Cora and said, okay, let's move him to first. And Cora said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. You're doing that. You want to do it, you go. I've already talked to him. Number one, I'd lose credibility. And number two, I don't want to move him to first base. And Breslow says, well, it's the best way to get Anthony in the lineup. Okay, you tell him. So it does feel like they're not on the same page there. And Cora allegedly was in on the meeting to be a translator with John Henry when Devers was in with John Henry. Breslow was not in the meeting at all. So now maybe Cora's just Henry's trying to separate Cora and Breslow. You get the idea. But again, if you're the owner of the team, you have to empower your chief baseball officer. Think about it. When Manny Ramirez was being a pain in the ass, did they back Manny or did they back the manager? They backed the manager, they backed the GM. They're not going to back Manny. Sean in Colorado. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Tony. How's it going? First, just kind of wanted to touch on, I don't like the comments that Raffy had, and I also hate how Breslow's handled it. That being said, we've kind of seen Raffy's production over the last little bit, if not since that first 5-game slump. You know, if moving him to first base is going to cause him to, change his routine, change his approach, if it's going to affect his approach at the plate, maybe that's something they reconsider. I love how it creates that roster flexibility.
Sean, I'm going to let you go there just because we have a lot of people on the line. I know you call regularly, so I'd be eager to speak with you again tomorrow. I'm just trying to get as many people as I can on tonight. So it is possible that this could screw up his offense. It's happened before. In the same breath, I will tell you, Rafael Devers can hit. I think he can hit in his sleep. I think he can hit standing on his head. I think he can hit lefties, hit righties. I'm a little worried about 95 plus at the moment, but overall, Rafael Devers can hit anything you throw up there. You can play him at shortstop and he'll hit. Now, again, the embarrassment thing, could there be a transition? Yes. But I wouldn't worry about long-term, any ramifications of it. And I do think I actually think he'd be able to play a functional first base. Mike's in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Mike.
All of what you just described, Tony, is 1,000% why Devers is absolutely correct in his position. The organization, whether it's Breslow or if it's the manager, they have no clue what they're doing. They've demonstrated this the last several years. They do not know how to manage a ball club. And so now Devers, look, he's not a utility player. If I was Devers, I would say, why are you coming to me to fill these random gaps in your team because you can't build the proper ball club? If I was Devers, 1,000% no, not interested. Nope, not for me. And everybody falls on the side of management. Like, what?
Okay, no. Wait a minute. First of all, not everybody's falling on the side of management. Nobody's saying that at all. That's not true. There are plenty of people who are on Devers' side. In fact, I would say a surprising number. And I don't know how old you are, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of them are on the younger side because nobody on the younger side ever wants to put their time in for anything anymore. So now look, because why isn't Roman Anthony asked to move over? Why isn't Christian Campbell asked to move over? I mean, you could make all those arguments too. So, the part about being on Devers' side of it, can we all agree? I think we can all agree that the most flexible thing for the Red Sox is put Devers at first. Because then you can put anyone at DH. Anyone. They all hit. So none of them have to use new skills or learn new skills to hit. They might have to learn a new routine. They're sitting on the bench a little bit longer. They got to find ways to stay loose and engaged between innings and what have you and at bats. But they don't have to learn to hit. When you put a guy in a new position, he's got to learn, where do I stand when I hold the runners? Am I always holding the runners? What are the signals I have to learn? Where am I on this cutoff play? Where am I on something else? When do I charge on a bunt? When do I come in? Have I ever turned a 3-6-3? Do I throw on the inside of the bag or the outside of the bag? These might seem like all ordinary things to you, but when you have to do them in high speed in a big league game, there is some learning involved. The mistake the Red Sox made was not having Devers learn it in spring training. If they were going to move him off at third and he still took grounders at third, they should have also had him take grounders at first. So, yes, they screwed up that. But, no, I'm not doing it. It's a team sport. You make sacrifices for the better of the group. That's the whole point. If you don't want to make the change for the benefit of the group, well, then you're not interested in winning, if you ask me. You know how many people I've had call and say Trevor Story? What about moving Trevor Story to first base and putting Marcelo Meyer at shortstop? Oh, good idea. What makes you think Trevor Story would do it? And before you say, well, he had a conversation with Devers recently and, tried to show some leadership, and he did. I'm going to remind you of something with Trevor Story. Kevin Majori will get your call. Okay.
I've been saying, my whole career that it's about winning, and I felt that this was a really good fit for me to play second this year.
Okay, second this year. Xander Bogaerts was still at shortstop. The next year, Xander Bogaerts was gone. Trevor Story was at short. So Trevor Story is willing to play second base for a year. And if memory serves, he did not want to sign with the Red Sox originally. He wanted to sign somewhere else. I think it was Texas.
Texas Rangers, and they signed Corey Seager because Trevor Story's agent was asleep at the wheel.
Okay, so again, it's about winning. So he wanted to go to Texas first. He ended up coming to Boston and to play second base because he had nowhere else to go, and they gave him 6 years and $140 million. But it was with the acknowledgement, wink, wink, nod, nod, that when Bogaerts is gone, I'm going back to short. So we sure that Trevor Story is all gung-ho about the idea of playing first base?
No.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
And in the same way, by the way, Trevor Story would have rather kept hitting at Worcester on a rehab assignment than come up and help the big club last year, 2 years ago. I forget. This guy's been injured so much. Over 3 years, he played, 162 games? Until now, he's actually playing? No, he's not going to first base. He's a shortstop, Tony. You can't mess with that.
So I'm just going all these people who in one breath want to kill Devers because he doesn't want to go to first base, and then say Trevor Story should go over there. And then it's, okay, so we're sure that Story's going to want to do it because he was only willing to play second base for the Red Sox for 1 year. And I guarantee you he would have put up a stink.
And by the way, he's not exactly a winning player. How many World Series did they win in Colorado?
0. And here's the other thing, Jimmy, is people would say, well, he never would have criticized Breslow the way that Devers did. Publicly, you might be right. But I would also submit, because we know about it, is that what makes it selfish? Or is it the fact that in other words, if it had happened behind the scenes, but we didn't know about it, we'd all have the perception of Trevor Story being a team player when he really wasn't. So I don't know. Maybe we should give Devers a little bit of credit for at least saying it publicly and owning it. Now, all I'm telling you is that selfishness is selfishness, whether or not it's behind the scenes. And I'm getting Trevor Story in trouble for something he hasn't done yet. All I'm telling you is that when he signed here, he said play second base this year. He didn't say for 6. He said this year. So there's a lot of this that goes around, and I do think, again, shame on Devers. Just do it. It's what's good for the team. But I also think dropping him into it now in the middle of the season is a little tricky when he's never played over there before. So that part is on the team. The team could have managed this better. Even if Devers said yes, they can't just drop him in there and play first base. It's not quite that simple. They tried it with Kyle Schwarber, and it wasn't good. Noah in Kansas City. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, Maz. Just wanted to say I thought Hunter Dobbins looked pretty well on Friday and Sunday at that game. That homer that Devers hit was crazy. And you're right, his bat isn't going to go anywhere. But, just all parties. It's amazing how many fans can't just realize, everybody failed when it came to this. The organization failed. Devers has failed. Just everyone has failed in all aspects of this.
Yeah, so Noah, sorry, I let you go because again, we get a lot of people on the line tonight. I put Devers at the top of the list too. I do. I'm just telling you that the organization didn't exactly put themselves in a position to be able to make this transition seamlessly. So that's the part I can't let go. Just quickly on Hunter Dobbins over the weekend, I thought he was good. I don't often say this, and I'll tell you what I love more than anything in that game. That was Friday night's game, right? The pitch he threw to Bobby Witt Jr. that kind of knocked him off the plate, loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Nobody does it anymore. I wish they would, and the kid didn't bat an eye. There was no doubt in my mind he did it on purpose. Get off my plate. Loved it. I hope the Red Sox start doing more of it. Chris in Hartford. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, Tony. Devers' lack of balance and footwork is not what we want at first, and that's what Cora knows. It would be a disaster. And he'd probably get run over a couple times, and with his shoulders already hurt, you'd have our best player out. He could really get hurt at first. And that's just a fact. He would have a couple collisions.
Yeah, Chris, I don't agree with you. I don't. I don't think his feet are that bad, and I think Cora's one of the people who probably theorized that he could play first base. I think the part that Cora disagrees with is doing it in the middle of the season when they've already switched him once. So that's the part I think Cora disagrees with. Do I think that Cora believes that Devers could play first? I do. I most certainly believe that. John in the car. John, go ahead.
Tony, this is all on Henry. He signed Devers after he got booed at the Winter Classic. We all remember that, right?
John, was signing Henry a mistake? I mean, was signing Devers a mistake?
For the amount of money, yes. And the length of time, did you think he would be good for 12 years at, what was it, $330? Because I don't.
Well, I'll tell you what, based on the fact that guys are now getting $700 million contracts, might not have been a bad deal.
Point taken. The reason that he had to go there, and thank God he's here, we can all pull the milk cartons off the things looking for John Henry, but he has made this team an asset, Tony, and not a baseball team anymore. That's why you're looking 13 deep for a general manager. Nobody wants to come here because for the last 6 years, they've been signing broken-down toys that had Tommy John surgery that can't play for a year, or a spare right fielder that they want to make a second baseman, and who wants that when you don't have to take it?
So, John, look, I agree with you on the damage done to the brand here over the last several years. I don't dispute that part of it. It's a good point. And, they had to scramble. I'd like to think, though, that this year they've done a little bit more of their part. They brought in Bregman. They traded for Crochet. It's not a blockbuster deal, but they did spend $21 million on Walker Buehler. The payroll is, I think, at an all-time high. I don't think it's ever been quite this high. Not that that is necessarily the benchmark because they always go up. Overall, just by inflation, they go up. So I think there's been more of an investment in the team. And again, on the one hand, people will say, well, that they stopped caring about the team. You might be right. I feel that at times. He did just fly to Kansas City to get behind his chief baseball officer and make sure that Devers isn't, the tail isn't wagging the dog. So I have never seen in my time an owner get on a plane and fly out to address something going on with the team on a road trip. I can't think of another occasion where that has happened. I might be wrong. But I don't think I've ever seen it. Matt in Situate. Matt, go ahead.
Hey, Tony, good evening. So the Rafi Devers situation just makes me very angry because, I work hard in life, and if you paid me $330 million to swing a baseball bat, I would play – I don't know. I'd rake the field for them. I would plant a garden.
Matt, can I ask a question? How old are you?
I'm 23.
Okay, and look, again, I don't mean this in a bad way, but the comparison of real life to sports just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So we all say that. It's not his fault that they're paying $30 million a year. That's the going rate for a guy who can hit when he signed. So the fact of the matter is we would all sit on the bench and be a utility man if we were going to make $3 million, let alone 30 to be, but you can't hit like Devers. So that's not his fault. Now, the teamwork part of it, not willing to make the sacrifice for the team, that you can criticize him for. The salary really should have nothing to do with it. Whether he's making $30 million or $3 million. They ask you to do it, you should do it. If it's what's best for the team, do it. If you're a starter and that means pitching out of the bullpen, do it. Tim Wakefield used to get credit for that all the time. He didn't make $30 million a year. He was one of the lower paid starters on the staff often. And at the end of his career, I think he was making like $3 million. But he was willing to do it. It shouldn't matter what you make. You're either doing it or you're not. And Devers isn't. He deserves criticism for that. The thing with Cora and Breslow, it just triggered a thought in my head about something Sam Kennedy said at the end of last year regarding Cora and the way he can, for lack of a better word, manipulate people and give you the appearance that he's doing one thing when he's doing something else. We'll tell you what that was, and we'll play it for you when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
And Craig Breslow knew that he wanted to be here. And so I'm so glad that we called his bluff and we got him to sign up long term.
So just quickly before I let you go, because I do think this gives you some insight as to how Alex Cora can operate. And again, this doesn't make him a horrible guy. It's just something you have to be aware of, which is when Cora signed his extension in the year leading up to that, there were a lot of whispers that he was unhappy and he wanted out. He seemed like an unhappy manager. He didn't believe in the direction of the franchise, to the point where there were whispers around the ballpark that he was telling people on the record and off, I'm out of here at the end of the year. That's it. The Red Sox, you heard Sam Kennedy say there, and I remembered this, and I couldn't find it. I said this to Jared Carabas the other day, and he didn't remember it. I think Cora's a terrific game manager. I do. But I also think you have to pay attention. I made a crack on Friday about how he's going to go down as the Bobby Valentine of this generation. I'm just telling you, he can be a little devious. Devious might be too strong a word, but conniving. And that's something to keep watch of. Because there's probably a reason why, I'm sure there's a reason, that he wouldn't defend or talk to Rafael Devers about switching to first base. Celtics pregame coming up next. Max and Grandy going right into Game 4 in New York tonight, right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. We'll catch you later.